Hello, my name is Joy Ashby Cornthwaite, and I'll be your host today. I'm a certified diabetes care and education specialist in Houston and a volunteer for Cities Changing Diabetes Houston as well. A new diagnosis of diabetes can come with a new set of self-care goals and priorities, not to mention a range and a host of emotions related to all the new things you have to learn that you have to understand. Today, our guests will discuss their diagnosis, how it changed their lives, and share advice about how to navigate the changes and what it means to them to persevere. Today's episode is coming up right now. You don't want to miss this. Before we begin, a gentle reminder that the content shared during the MyDiabetesHQ live broadcast is neither intended to be a substitute for medical advice or diagnosis or treatment. Always seek the counsel of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding any medical condition. This weekly broadcast is developed by and produced by Cities Changing Diabetes volunteers in Houston and Philadelphia. Our two cities are the U.S. members of a Nova Nordis funded global network of 36 cities working to improve diabetes prevention, care, and management. You can learn more about Cities Changing Diabetes by going to citieschangingdiabetes.com. The purpose of our Diabetes HQ Live is to help people with diabetes and their support team. And today I'm really excited to be joined by my guests. I have Tiara Smith, nutrition educator and senior manager of Beyond Type 2. Good morning, my friend.
Hi, Joy. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. And I have Missy Kuhn, registered nurse and an advocate for those living with type 2.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
And to round out our lovely table, I have Serena Valentine, CEO of Core Initiative and our team lead for our team lead for Houston Diabetes Peer Support Network. So welcome, everybody. I'm really, really honored that the three of you are on the show today. And, we've had very great conversations, and I can't wait to bring your knowledge, your expertise, and your advocacy to viewers who are watching today. So I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts about, my type 2 diagnosis. And I want you guys to just begin with your passion and your remembrance of your diagnosis and how the moments around those shaped you.
Yeah, so I'll go first. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in July of 2017, just a few days after the 4th of July holiday. I had all of the symptoms of diabetes. My hair was thinning. I had massive weight loss, extreme thirst, felt like I could never eat enough. It later turned out that diagnosis was incorrect, and I actually had type 1, but I didn't find that out for another year or two. What I remember about that day was my doctor just saying, well, you have full-blown diabetes now. Very impersonal, not really with the kind of way that you would tell someone whose life is going to change forever, especially with a very serious disease. I was in grad school at the time studying nutrition, so I knew the basics of a balanced eating pattern. But what I got was like the generic pamphlet on, how to read a food label, foods that you should or should not eat. And then I was given Lantus long-acting insulin, some metformin, and then I was sent on my way. So it wasn't a very long doctor's appointment. I think my thoughts around then were, I don't think I was necessarily surprised because I had prediabetes when I was 18, but I wish I had more support. But I think at that time, I felt like I was still well equipped to be able to figure my own way because I already had some experience with diabetes, and also a lot of experience with healthy eating and exercise. So I felt like I was going to be okay.
Wow. Yeah, the feeling that I get, I hope that other educators get too. And when I hear this kind of story is just, I wish I was there to help you, and I want to make sure that no one else has that same experience. Missy?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about how I was first came to realize I had type 2 diabetes. Even though, as you introduced me, I do have RN by my name, but that doesn't always mean, you're better off knowing things. How I came to know about diabetes is I had the symptom of insatiable thirst, but I didn't think much of it. And I guess this was going on maybe 2 months. It just didn't click. And it wasn't until I was at a Philadelphia Eagles football game, which is a passion of mine. And it goes along with that is tailgating and everything. But anyhow, I was with my sister in the stadium, and all of a sudden I was trying to read the scoreboard and it was all blurry. And while I was trying to down a lot of water and blurry vision, it just hit me. You probably have diabetes. And the reason why I'm saying this, I'm a patient. I am a patient. I am a nurse. I've treated a lot of diabetics, given a lot of insulin shots in my day. But it didn't hit me until the blurred vision. And it just came to me, you probably have diabetes. I mean, it just hit me. So the next day I got a blood test, and the day after, my doctor says, congratulations, you're a full-blown diabetic. So I kind of knew it, but you still, as a healthcare provider who is the patient this time, you're shocked, because now what? Now what? That's what goes through your mind. And I went to my doctor, and the first thing he did to me is start me on metformin, what you normally do. And he insisted I go to diabetes education classes at the local hospital. And he actually insisted, even though you're an RN, you think you know it all, you should go. And I at least agreed to that. And I went, and they were helpful. But there's so much more to know. But I think the first thing you should do is, if you don't get support from your doctor right away, find a way, ask the questions, where do I go get help? Because there is help out there. And if you don't get it from that practitioner, go to your local hospital, go to your pastor in your church. There's people who know. And that's my recommendation.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. And there is, in that vein, Missy, there is a way to find an educator by going to www.diabeteseducator.org, and you can find an expert. Most plans actually do have coverage for diabetes care and education. So if you have a plan, an insurance plan, you can find help that way. And you can also find local FQHCs. Like here, one of our partners is the Hope Clinic, Harris Health, as well as your local health department. They do have programs. And here in Houston, we also have the DAWN program, which is the Diabetes Awareness and Wellness Network, that has resources for free for people who live in Harris County. So that's my little spiel off of your suggestion. And
keep it going.
And Serena.
Yeah. So I didn't know. I heard diabetes, but I didn't know a lot about it. A lot of my family members have diabetes, and I was working at a chemical plant, and I was actually experiencing the symptoms for a long time. Like I said, I didn't know the symptoms, and I just thought that the shift work was getting to me. One weekend, I was just feeling really bad, coming in and out of consciousness, and so I had to have someone take me to the ER. I didn't know I was in the ER until I opened my eyes in the ER. So I was diagnosed November 29, 2003. Ironically, during Diabetes Awareness Month. um, so I was diagnosed as a type 1 because of my age. I was 20. But I didn't find out until 5 years later that I was actually a type 2 when I was pregnant with my son. It was very scary because my blood sugar, they told me, was 545. And
Wow.
they were shocked that I was not in a coma. But I wish, I just be real, I wish I knew people like Joy. I didn't know anything about diabetes at all. I just heard of it, and I never heard of anyone, being really sick from it. So it was very scary. It was a very scary time. The first doctor that I had told me was everyone with diabetes has to have at least 4 medications. So you're going to be okay. Because when I was first diagnosed, I had 13. A lot was wrong. I had a severe kidney infection, and that's how I found out that I had diabetes. So yeah, it was a very scary.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Serena. I know that I know that each of you had it always sounds, every time I listen to someone who's diagnosed with diabetes, living either with type 1 or type 2, what I oftentimes hear is, like a really traumatic story. Like it's really, really impacting your life, and there's not a lot of support around it. Was there anybody that any of you went to immediately? A family member, a friend? Was there anyone that you could lean on right away? And just jump in.
I think I know I told my mom first, and I think I told my cousin at the same time. And they were very supportive. They said pretty much all the right things that you want to hear, which is we'll support you however you need. I think when you're talking to people who know about diabetes but don't know about diabetes, it can be kind of you kind of just have to let them try to learn on their own as well. But at that point, I had to be kind of vocal about what kind of support I needed. So yeah, but it was nice to be able to turn to people who loved me, who were supportive.
Yeah. So I want to stay in that space real quick. So you said to tell people what you needed.
Yeah.
So how would you, I think some people have trouble. We struggle with asking people for help, but asking people for specific help. What are some of the first things that you would help someone get to if they wanted to ask for specific help? What would you say?
So I think when you're newly diagnosed, I think one thing that's important to be honest with yourself about the thing that you're worried about most, because that's where you're going to need the most support. So if you are worried about the thing about food, it's food access, or changing your diet a bit, it's helpful to ask a family member, hey, I am trying to eat less of this type of food. It is helpful to me if whenever we get together, we make sure that we don't have this type of food around. Even little moments like that. Or if you're trying to be more active to manage your blood sugar, asking someone in your family or in your circle of friends, hi, I am trying to be more active. Would you mind going for a walk with me or going to a workout class with me? I think those are very vocal suggestions and also actionable things. And what you'll also learn along the way is that some of the people who you think would probably, or who you will want to support you, probably can't support you in that way. But because you know what you want, you're more likely to go out and find people who are more supportive of that, whether that's through a diabetes care and education class, or an online forum, or a local meetup group in your area.
Great. Would you agree with that, Missy?
I think she's spot on with everything she said. My best support was my spouse. He he supported. He was also shocked with my diagnosis, but he went along, which I recommend. If you do get to education classes, bring whoever your buddy is in life, whether it's your spouse, your sister, just somebody that cares to come with you with these classes, because you will both learn together. I didn't really have a lot of people around me that either experienced diabetes through my friends. However, I had most support at work, because I work as an RN in a clinical trial space. So there's, people that understand the medical speak, and we're more in the know. So really, I had more support from my workmates than I did in my personal life. But I personally think it's important to get, like I just said, that buddy, whoever that may be, a significant other, like I said, a sister, a spouse, a friend, somebody that's going to take this journey with you and support you. I think it's important that they also, if they can and are willing, to get educated along with you. And it was really important for my husband. Again, I can share this. He loves chips and all that stuff. Please don't bring it in the house. And he did, The one thing that cracks me up is, people hear you have diabetes and you're at a birthday celebration and they'll take the piece of cake away from you, which is honestly heartwarming. But, they just don't totally understand it. But all things said, they're doing the right thing in their own way.
They're trying. They're trying.
They don't totally get it, but I get that they don't totally get it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Serena wants to say something. She was laughing immediately.
Sorry, mute buttons. But yeah, that always happens. The taking away the cake and the, can you eat that? Are you sure you should be eating that?
Exactly.
It can get difficult. But I actually was going to say, for people, because there are people out there, which I was like that, there was no one really to turn to. And I didn't really find out about other people having it until people started opening their mouths to tell me. And so sometimes when you don't have other people around you, it would be beneficial to locate a peer support group that can help you. And I know it feels like weird talking to strangers, but you never know what you may learn in a setting with other people who are dealing with the same things. And I've learned so much just facilitating peer support groups that secretly in the meeting, I'm like, mental notes, I'm going to write this down later. I learned a lot. I'm not the expert. I'm a peer with everyone else. And so shameless plug, if you're on Facebook and you want to go to this search engine and type
I'll write this down.
Houston Diabetes.
We're online. Y'all, I gotta put the group out there. We're growing. We're online on Facebook. Go to the search engine and type in Houston Diabetes Peer Support Program. One of our admins will let you in. People randomly get on there and say random thoughts. People get on there and talk about real situations that are going on. And we share lots of information, things going on in the community, resources. And so please join us because we'd love to have.
Awesome.
And there you go.
I agree. And right. And I want to kind of outline what you all just told me and then come back all the way over to peer support. But so what I, in kind of helping others who might be watching, I think something that the three of you did and did really, really well was after your diagnosis, as traumatic and as a little bit confusing as it was, a lot of it confusing. All three of you took a pause. Okay. So if we pull this up here, so taking that thoughtful pause to process what you've heard, what your diagnosis is, sorting through all of those emotions, and then being able to consider the next steps. And I love, love, love that Tiara said to, identify as you're considering those next steps, identify who your support will be and how they will support you. And that those hows and those questions that you kind of solidify in your own mind will be able to help you find your tribe that can help you move forward in the way that you want to move forward. Is that like a pretty good synopsis?
That's right.
Absolutely.
For my amazing team here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to touch on something that one of our viewers sent out. They said that, Tiara, you had hair loss, and I think the question from the viewer was, can these things be reversed? Blurry vision, hair loss.
Yeah. As I started to get my glucose under control, my hair did start like filling back in again. Like all around here is when I started noticing like, my hair was thinning. I can even go back to the photos right before I was diagnosed, and it looked so different. And my hair was actually like coming out. But as I got my glucose under control, that stopped.
Okay. And Missy?
Yeah.
The vision changes?
The vision changes went away immediately once you get your glucose under control.
Yeah.
And within, I don't want to say I had constant blurry vision, but it was there intermittently. Okay. So I don't want to scare any viewer that, it's a constant thing. But as soon as you get your sugar under control, when I was first diagnosed, my A1C was 11.4, I believe.
Yeah.
So it was cooking for a while, but not quite as dramatic as others have been. And but it goes away. So key thing is get it under control, and things won't be as scary, and you're doing yourself, your health good by getting it under control. And you are the master of your destiny. Yes. As much as support is in very valuable to walk this journey, you are the master of your destiny. And if you don't do it, really nobody else will.
Right.
And just keep that in mind. And that's true of anything we face in life. But you got a lot to live. There's a lot of things to live for. So take it under control. You can control it.
Yeah. And I want to also add to that, like on Beyond Type 2, I've written in several articles that you are the number one person in your healthcare team. So when you're thinking about the kind of support you need and being vocal, that support also comes from your healthcare team. So it's important for you to tell them what you need, because healthcare professionals, as much as they want to help you, they're also not mind readers. So the best way that they can help you is if you tell them the kind of help that you're looking for.
Super. I love it. A plug for the healthcare providers out there. And also for people to be self-advocates. I think we cannot harp on it enough to say that, be your own self-advocate, just like you so wonderfully put it. So this is one of the questions that you can ask your healthcare provider. So you can ask your physician for a referral. You can contact your insurance for in-network clinicians. You can also search for an educator. Educators and educator programs will have all the sort of different questions that you may have. So how to check my blood glucose? Should I go to an eye doctor? What should I eat versus a whole list of what not to eat? That is incredibly frustrating to be told what not to eat without being told what to eat. And then how to take your medications, the timing of your medications, all of that. And these are some, just so that people can have it out there before we continue our conversation. But these are some healthcare team members that you can ask for, that you can look for, all the way from a primary care provider to what a mental health professional can do for you, registered dietitians, fitness professionals. you can build your team as you need to build your team.
Yep. I really like that you have a mental health professional up there, because I think that gets under discussed in diabetes care in general, but especially in type 2. Diabetes, the stress is very real. And for people who don't know, the guy, Bill Polanski from PCOID, Taking Control of Your Diabetes, talks about the emotional side of living with diabetes, and gives like great tips on how to identify diabetes distress, because you're going to have your days where you're not feeling diabetes that day, and you don't want to do anything with it. So, and those days are normal. I think I was telling someone recently that your days with diabetes are going to vary, but you just have to try your best that day. Your best is going to look different different days.
I agree. One day at a time. That's how you do it. Some days you do want to forget you're diabetic and throw it all, every monitor, everything out the door. There are days but it's, you get back up and you start all over again.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk about this, because I want to talk about this because I think that people don't talk about it enough. So I have all sorts of conversations with my patients. I invite them to tell me everything. And so sometimes, they come in and someone might tell me that day, like, Joy, I'm going on diabetes vacation. Okay. And I get it. I understand it. And then I do all of my like safety tips and things like that. But can you all speak to that concept? Because I think I lived around people living with diabetes, and I'm in the diabetes space, and I have conversations virtually now with people in the diabetes space. So I've learned so much from the people that I live with and the people that I help, that I understand what a diabetes vacation is, right? So can you guys just talk about that? Because some people living with diabetes might feel alone in this, and some clinicians may not even know it exists.
Yeah. So diabetes vacation, that's also something I learned from Bill Polanski. And I know how I felt about it at first. I was like, you can't take a vacation from diabetes, like, because my blood sugar is going to be really high, or I'm gonna drop low. How am I going to know what's going on? And so I tried it, and I did it for like one day. I started with just one day where I was like, okay, not going to check my blood sugar.
Worry about it.
I'm going to eat something that I really, really want to have. I may go for a walk or may not. I'm just going to pretend for one day that I do not have diabetes today, unless it's like if I'm facing an emergency, like a low blood sugar. But I told myself I could survive a day, just one day. And what is important to me personally is that I don't make sure that doesn't extend to 2, 3, 4, 5 days and then leading into months. But I do allow myself to take maybe a day or two to just pretend like I don't have diabetes for that day. So that's what a diabetes vacation means to me. And it's honestly, it's so mentally freeing, like to not feel burdened with either pricking my finger or scanning my CGM, to not be burdened with like trying to figure out how much insulin I need to take with a set of with a set amount of carbs. There are days whenever I take a diabetes vacation, I have like a set number of insulin I'm going to take for that day, so I don't have to figure out if I'm eating 20 carbs, is how much insulin I need to take. I just make sure I'm taking like enough that I think will cover the carbs. But that's what that means to me for a diabetes vacation.
I can honestly. Oh, go ahead, Serena.
No, go ahead, Missy.
No, I was just gonna say, my vacation is more of, I've never done exactly. I was never brave enough to do what Tiara has done, but my vacation is, and then it's bad, but there are days that I just say I'm not going to inject myself till after lunch.
Yeah.
All right. And then when you finally do say, oh my, then you kind of feel guilty. I feel guilty, at least. I can't say that anybody else says, but and then you think in the back, oh my God, what am I doing to myself by doing this? Then you get panicked. So I guess their vacation only lasts this long because in the back of your head you're saying you're not doing yourself any good. So but I have never gone an entire day without scanning my CGM or taking my insulin. I do forget my medication now and then. Okay, that's because it's probably my age. I don't know, but I just forget, But that also makes an impact too on your sugars the next day. So maybe I do take more vacation. But you know what? Like I said, you get back up. It's not going to kill you for one day. If you keep doing it, it'll kill you. But that one day it won't.
Right. It's definitely that whole that one day with taking a diabetes vacation doesn't define your entire management.
Right. And I also think that it's a good thing because you realize you're more responsible than you think you are with your own management of your health.
Right.
I was going to say, I had never heard of a diabetes vacation.
Until this moment,
I got to hear this now, Serena. Go.
I'm having a moment, okay? I cannot fathom a diabetes vacation. My mind would attack me if I even thought of, and the only reason why I say that is because everybody's in different spaces in their different walks in their journey with diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
In my space, it's not, and maybe I just feel like this. Maybe and this is peer support for me, y'all. So the peer supporter needs peer support. Okay. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm wrong, but I can't, in my space, for me to slip a little bit costs me a lot. And because I'm experiencing complications. I have more than one. I deal with diabetic neuropathy in my hands and feet. I have diabetic retinopathy, blind in one eye, can see some out the other. And I'm like, if I slip a little bit, I can see the change in my vision. If I was to go one day without checking my blood sugar, I'm one of those people, if I feel something, if I feel a twinge or something, I'm like, what was that? Okay, I need to go check my sugar. But that's just how I've been dealing with diabetes for 18 years. And so every time there's a signal, I'm like, what is that? And that's probably overbearing on myself. But that's why I said the peer support, peer support. I have never heard of diabetes vacation. So, I mean, in my space,
I also know. I know our brothers and sisters with type 1 do it a lot more than maybe type 2 do, but they definitely will take off their pumps. And sometimes I think you need to disconnect for your own mental health, but like I said, you got to get back on again.
Yeah.
And I think I love that, the way that you framed it, Tiara, was that it's almost like a sick day, balance. And I see that as the way that we think of sick days, say in our workspace, right? So you can take a mental health day by taking a sick day. There's nothing wrong with, taking off a day from work, marking it as sick for your own mental health and wellness. If you think about diabetes care in that way, whereas you could take a day off but still be safe, you still have the buffer of maybe just planning out your basal therapy and then a set mealtime therapy if you're on medications. And that way you're not, you may frame the day as a day similar to one of your days that were very well managed.
Right.
So one of the days in which your values are pretty well managed. And that way, after a while, you can you get to know what's going to happen on other days. What do you think?
I think that, I think you said it right. You definitely have to go into a planning out your vacation, your diabetes vacation, but also you kind of have to let go of certain expectations. So understanding that for this one day, your numbers aren't going to be as tight as they are any other day. And that's kind of the point, to kind of like let go for a little bit. So planning out, like if you have a set basal rate, or take that. And then I really do think like having like a set amount of medication that you are going to take, but not really worried about your blood sugar for that day. I think Serena, your situation is completely different from mine. So a concept of a diabetes vacation for me will be different for you. But even then, for you, you may want to figure out like what does a vacation mean to you? What are some things that could just give you that mental break for that day, or even just a few hours or so?
Yeah. And I think that as you guys, as you ladies talked about this, I think it's important to open up and talk about this. Like, I think so often we keep things inside. Like, maybe people are going on diabetes vacations, but not feeling comfortable or safe about doing it. And, our job as clinicians is to keep you safe, but also to respect your mental health and your skills and all of those things. We may know things about you that will allow you to take a mental health and wellness sick day, with your diabetes care, and we can help you plan that. If you have a love of travel, you would call a travel agent and tell them where you want to go, how you want to get there, how much money you have, what kind of skills you have when you get there. And that travel agent is going to take all of that information and help you get there, so that the vacation is everything you want it to be. And so I would rather, have a conversation with someone that I'm working with around planning a day than have them have a day and then not be safe in that day or feel bad. And again, full disclaimer, everyone's on their own journey. We are not giving advice to take a diabetes vacation if you don't feel comfortable, if your team hasn't spoken about it. So we're not here to give you advice, diagnosis, nor treatment, full disclaimer. But we just want to be honest with you. We want you to be honest with who you are so that you can stay safe in whatever path you choose.
Absolutely.
I love you guys so much.
Y'all, I'm still this diabetes education stuff is like, wow, okay.
Honestly,
Okay.
Serena, it's honestly, it was the type of thing when I heard about it too.
We can have a discussion after this and do plan my diabetes education.
And also, I want to also point out that this type of open discussion is exactly how we all learn. Like this is the example of like a peer support. I mean, one thing, and I want to commend Serena specifically on this, but like being open about that you are experiencing complications, because it's very hard to get people with type 2 diabetes to talk about
it is
living with complications as openly as you are. So I hope that people who are watching are inspired by your story.
I am very inspired by you disclosing your complications, because in the back of my head, I fear there's complications. And what I see you, Serena, doing, you're saying, I'm still here, I'm still chugging along, and I'm doing the best I can, and you're smiling. And I'd say that's what it's all about. You just keep going. But like I said, another thing, I'll just say my fear is always there. I watched it, my grandmother died of a stroke, and my mother had diabetes. So, some people don't know the complications that come with it. And those of us that do, always in the back of their head have that fear, But look at you. I'm so proud of you. You're a role model to me, Serena. You really are.
To all of us.
Oh.
So
you know what? It's honestly, it's a certain mental space that you get to. It's a mental space. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So I was thinking about, how Missy was talking about complications and how you kind of measure for that came in my mind. So one of our viewers asked, what target A1C do you try for? It's very hard to keep it below, 7 consistently. I want you all to maybe talk about what those parameters have always meant to you and whether or not there's something that drive you, or are you driven by your behavior change? Like what, in what way do you want to talk about, A1Cs and what they mean?
Serena, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, and this probably sounds like and this is stuff I hear peer support too. A lot of people are not frightened by anything until they experience it. That was my experience. What drives me to try to get my A1C lower is my experiences, my complications. I don't even want to think of it getting worse. And with my eyes, it has gotten worse before. I was blind for 9 months, and that was the hardest thing I could ever believe or I could ever think of dealing with. And so since I had gotten some of my sight back in my left eye, I am like, okay, that's never happening to me again. So that's kind of what keeps me on the monitoring and the exercise and watching what I eat, because I don't want that to happen to me again. And because Joy, we have side conversations, and I'm just like, I do not want this stuff to happen to me again. So the complications have driven me to do better, because I feel like I'm too young. I'm like, I tell myself, I'm too young to be dealing with this stuff. Like, I got a 12-year-old. I need to see him graduate. I need to see things happen with his life. I need to see changes with him. And so that kind of stuff drives me for the A1C.
Yeah.
Missy, what would you say?
Wait, I'm sorry, I kind of lost the picture there for a while. The question was?
So the question is, one of the viewers asked about keeping a tight monitor management on A1C. Is that what, and we're asking, my question to you all was, is that what drives you? Is that number what drives you, or is it something else?
No. Well, you know what? This whole world anymore is a numbers game.
And you're a researcher, so we do have to.
Yeah, and in numbers, just, after a while, it's number and alphabet soup. But anyhow, honestly, it's what the ADA and everybody wants you to keep it 7 or below is the way to go. And as a type 2 especially, it's very difficult to go below that. At least I personally find it hard to get in the 6s, okay? So honestly, I hang around 6.8 to 7.2. And my doc's okay with that. I'm okay with that to some extent. Like I say, I try to get that number down, but sometimes it's so bizarre. You don't know what your body's going to do the day from one day to the next. You could follow the exact same diet 3 days in a row and all your numbers are different. Right. So, and I know all of you have that day too, So I think try not to beat yourself up about it, but I try to get a 7. If I get above that, like if I start going above 7.3, I kind of panic. So I'll step up my walking and, start getting a little bit more, or I go to my doctor and say, let's play with my meds or whatever. But yeah, that's my number.
Yeah. I mean, I try to, like 7, at least 7 or below, like, or even just a little bit is a major success for me, because when I was diagnosed, my A1C was like 15.5.
Yes.
So
that's amazing.
But I don't focus so much on the numbers as much as I do my behaviors, because I know my behaviors will drive the numbers eventually. I try to focus on like my attitudes and behaviors towards things like food and exercise, because those are the things that I try to be more consistent on. And then just hope that like my time in range is really good. And that's another metric I use, because on my CGM, which is time in range, that number is a little bit more important to me than A1C, because at least I can see on my CGM if what I'm doing is keeping me within between 70 and 180. Because I don't want to reach below 7, but then find out that I'm actually dropping to like 40 and 50, and having low blood sugars to get my A1C down that way. But I would just say, like, to sum it up, it's more about like the behaviors that drive me more than anything.
Yeah, I like that. I like, I think it's a check-in mechanism. I do not think that it defines a human.
Right.
I think if
Yeah.
we're able to, if someone is experiencing, they have an A1C of 7.8 or something, and they've made progress from, say, a 10 or 11, and their behaviors have driven that progress, including medication taking and going to their visits and all of that. I think we celebrate that win, right?
Absolutely.
And then we see the behaviors that can be shifted a bit to help promote even further, while maintaining safety, without too many lows, because an A1C of 6 with, all day lows of 40s is not thriving.
Right.
Okay. So it's super important to be able to live a very good life.
Yeah.
So this is super important. I love it. So we've talked a lot about how a person living with diabetes responds and how they move forward. And focusing on the person living with diabetes as the leader of their team. Okay. So now I want you all, as the leader and the coach for your team, to give a shout out to your team members. How do we help you keep the gravity and sort of like the heaviness of living with diabetes more bearable, while giving you strength and celebrating your confidence and your skill building? How do we do that in your minds?
Wait, so I'm sorry. The question was, how do we make life more bearable with diabetes while still like maintaining a positive attitude?
Mm-hmm. How would you tell people to help you do that?
Oh, I would just say, don't assume you know more about my diabetes than I do. And if I'm opening up to you about my diabetes, I don't need judgment. I just sometimes just need an ear. I think it's perfectly okay for people who support you to not necessarily have an answer to whatever issues that you're going through. Sometimes it is okay to just listen. And I would say, like, for me personally, if I'm having a bad day with diabetes, it is totally okay to try to make it into a funny situation where I laugh about it. Because chances are, if I'm going through a tough time with diabetes, I've already beat myself up about it enough already. And what will really help me is some levity, to make things seem hopeful again. And then, help me celebrate the small wins. So if I'm, if my A1C is 10, and if I get down to 8, I would say, let's celebrate that instead of saying, well, your A1C should be 7. So we're going to get down to 7. I would prefer if we celebrate the small wins instead of waiting for the bigger ones, because the bigger ones, they may not come as often, or as quickly as I hope. But the small ones, I can find those every day.
Super. Serena?
Yeah, I totally agree with the small wins. I am a celebration kind of person. So I'm perfectly fine celebrating by myself, but it's cool if other people are like, every time you do something, because you never know how much it took for that person to get that small win. That's important. I also was gonna say, if you see me upset or something's different or something's weird, ask me, are you okay? But don't do the whole What's wrong? Are you hungry? Do you need something to eat? Because it's not always, yes, I live with diabetes, but it's not everything. It's not everything that's wrong with me. Don't just assume that everything that's wrong with me is the diabetes. I'm a person as well. There are other things going on in my life, other things that have nothing to do with diabetes. And to me, that's important for a person living with diabetes to kind of separate a little bit from that life, because there are other things going on that concern you. And it's not always the, is it your diabetes? Like, no, I'm upset because you're in my face and I need time to think. So I need you to like, come on, everything is not my blood sugar or whatever, so just kind of help keep the balance, because I have like honestly, my mom and my brother, they are goofballs. That's where I get it from. My mom, she's a goofball too. So them being goofy with me and just playing around and stuff, that kind of takes my mind off of all the seriousness of everything, And so that kind of helps. Being able to laugh, that helps a lot.
I think honestly, people that know me know laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah.
It really is. It diffuses so much. It takes stress off your plate. Your cortisol levels go down. I think your diabetes is better when you can laugh. But on another note there, Serena, is, we're all women and, we can blame our moods on a lot of things. Sometimes it's good to say, I got diabetes, so leave me alone.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what Tiara said about, don't judge me. Okay. I just I try not to judge anybody, but especially in the diabetes space, if you're going to a doctor and they don't like what you're doing, or they don't like your A1C or something, and they just come down on you and you're like, what? I had that happen to me. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it because they didn't really understand my what I was trying to ask them and my station in life to bring down that judgment. I do know a third party person tries to speak objectively. But if you got a little something in the ringing in your back of your ear saying this person's not connecting with you, then get out of that office and find somebody else. Okay. It happened to me. My first endocrinologist I went to came in very gruff, we could tell their day was busy. I can tell that, but you know what? You're a professional. Speak to me. And they lashed out at me and I said, I'm not coming back. And one other thing I wanted to mention with all this is, you can sense your own something's wrong. Listen to that little voice inside of you. Okay. Mm-hmm. If it's not working out, there's a reason why that little conscience or that little voice you have is telling you this ain't right. Find somebody else. Okay. And nobody should be judged for who they are, period. And this, whether you're diabetic, whether you're anything in this world, you shouldn't be judged because we don't walk in each other's shoes. So, and I don't know if you're having a bad day and don't know your situation, but if you're getting that attitude from a healthcare provider, it's time to find another one.
Yeah. Agreed. I think that's something we can all agree on here, and I think I say it oftentimes, but you don't have to be married to that clinician, whoever they may be. We're not forced to be friends with people that we're not friends with.
Right.
So, in every other space, and this is a space where it's your life, your mental health, it's everything, Right. And so if you don't get along with that person, it doesn't mean that there's not another person that you could get along with.
Exactly.
And I think that, sometimes people feel stuck.
Yeah.
And I guess we're here to say, don't feel stuck.
And let me just put this to our viewers who watch this is doctors aren't perfect. We're all people. Okay. But there are a lot of bad ones too, good and bad and everything. And just find the one that fits with you. And and it's no shame to you for you to go looking. Okay.
Especially like with telehealth services available now.
Yeah.
You have so many different options out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of clinicians, especially via telehealth or just clinicians in general, you can actually ask for like a discovery visit. So a visit in which you just have a conversation with them to see if you jive together. It's kind of like, speed dating, but for a healthcare provider.
Yep.
So you ask a few questions, see if you like them. And then if you don't,
what if you don't like the way they look?
Not that speed dating.
I'm just kidding. There goes back to that humor thing.
Exactly. I love it. So thank you all so much for being here. This has been really incredible. And I hope you all feel the connection that we have. I feel like we should have this should be a panel that just comes back together to talk about everything.
You guys are awesome. You ladies are great.
For people with type 2 diabetes, definitely check out beyondtype2.org because we have a lot of resources on living with type 2 diabetes. So definitely check us out there if you want to know more about like the practical ways of living with type 2.
Yeah, and it's like an online peer support blog. It's fantastic. So.
I may be stalking you now, Tiara.
It's not officially stalking if you say that you're doing it. I mean, that's not actual. Wow. Someone's going to come back and tell me something about that comment. Apologies to everyone out there. Just levity, y'all. Just jokes.
Just jokes.
Just jokes.
Sorry.
So thank you so much. And please stay tuned. If I ask you back, I really, not if, when I ask you back, please say yes.
Will do.
Of course.
Awesome.
Will do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Joy, and everyone.
Thanks, Joy.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So a new diagnosis of diabetes can bring about this whole range of emotions. Pausing to accept, then considering a path forward that's right for you may look for different for different people on their journeys living with diabetes. Thank you all for sharing your journeys and lighting a path forward for others. And I really look forward to seeing how you continue to live better, thrive more in each of your spaces. And I hope that you update us on future episodes. We do have a quick survey on YouTube and Facebook where we would like to get feedback from the viewers. Help us make MyDiabetesHQ Live better by filling out this survey. Mark your calendars. Our next episode will air next week on Saturday, May 15th, 10 a.m. Central and 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all for being a part of MyDiabetesHQ community. We'll see you next time.